recyclable waste containers there. If you'd like to use them, we dispose of your drinking containers. Cenotaph party, take place. Here we go. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you again to this commencement of our commemoration for ANZAC Day. I'd like to welcome our honoured guests, Mr Joshua Caruso is our speaker this morning, and his wife Caroline. We have our Mayor, Mr McGuell, Bishop Houlihan, Nola Marina is here, and also Don Punch. I'd like to welcome you to our commemoration. We now have a tribute to the fags. I now welcome Mr Bishop Houlihan to do the Lord's Prayer.
So we pray for those who've died, for their peace. Pray for those suffering the trauma of war, the effects psychological and physical. We pray too for those grieving loved ones who died in war or who are suffering as a result. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, now and forever. Amen.
We'll now have the hymn, Lest We Forget. We now have the ANZAC Requiem with Bunbury Senior High School, Elsa Worley, America Morgan Harvey.
On this day above all days, we call those who served in war and who did not return to receive the grateful thanks of the nation. We remember those who still sleep where they were left, amid the holly scrub in the valleys and the ridges of Gallipoli, on the rocky and terraced hills of Palestine, and in the lovely cemeteries of France. We remember those who lie asleep in ground beneath the shimmering haze of the Libyan desert, at Bardia, Turna, Tobruk, and amid the mountain passes and olive groves of Greece and Crete, and the rugged, snow-capped hills of Lebanon and Syria. We remember those who lie buried in the rank jungle of Malaya and Burma, in Papua New Guinea, and in the distant isles of the Pacific. We remember those who lie buried amid loving friends in our motherland and in our own far north. We remember those who lie in unknown resting places in almost every land, and those gallant men whose grave is the unending sea. Especially do we remember those who died as prisoners of war, remote from their homeland and from the comforting presence of their kith and kin.
We think of those of our women's services who gave their lives in our own foreign lands and at sea, and of those who proved to be, in much more than name, the sisters of our fighting men. We recall too the staunch friends who fought beside our men on the first ANZAC Day, men of New Zealand who helped create the name ANZAC. We recall those who gave their lives in the Royal Navy, the British Army, the Royal Air Force, the Merchant Service, and in other British and Dominion forces. And we think of those British men and women who fell when, for the second time in history, their nation and its kindred stood alone against the overwhelming might of an oppressor. We think of every man and woman who in those crucial hours died, so that the lights of freedom and humanity might continue to shine. We think of those gallant men and women who died in Korea, Malaya, Borneo, Vietnam, Somalia, the Gulf, East Timor, Afghanistan, and Iraq, as well as in peacekeeping forces and on humanitarian missions defending the Commonwealth and other countries of the free world against the common enemy. May these all rest proudly in the knowledge of their achievement, and may we, our successors in that heritage, prove worthy of their sacrifice.
Now commence the wreath laying. Call the guests up first, and then we'll follow by the general public. John Giomi, President of Bunbury RSL. Mr. Joseph Caruso, our guest of honour. Mr. Miguel, Mayor of Bunbury. Miss Nola Marino, Member of Parliament. Mr. Don Punch, Member for Parliament for Bunbury. WA Police Force. (1128) Battalion. State Emergency Services. Volunteer Fire Brigade. Bunbury City Band. Bunbury Cathedral Grammar School. Rotary Club of South Bunbury. CWA of Bunbury. St Patrick's Catholic Church. Bunbury High School. 515 Army Cadet Unit, Bunbury. National Catholic Primary School. St Joseph's Primary School, Bunbury. Bunbury City Band and Grace Christian School. Eden Community College. Newton Moore Senior High School. Bunbury Catholic College. St Mary's, Bunbury. Mania Senior College. City of Bunbury Surf Life Saving Club. Australian Ambulance and East Bunbury Ambulance. Australian Senior High School. From the Corkery family. BGCCI. Downs family. Is there anybody further wants to leave reefs or place a reef? Feel free to do so.
Please come attention to the last post. They went with songs to the battle. They were young, straight of limb, true of eyes, steady and aglow. They were staunch to the end against odds unencountered. They fell with their faces to the foe. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Parade Commander. Now going to sing the hymn, O God our help in ages past. Good morning. I'd like to introduce to you today one of our own, a man that was born in Bunbury, Joseph Crusoe. His education commenced in Donnybrook. He then attended Marist Brothers Catholic College and completed his education at Ildefonsus College, New Norcia, and later years attended Ashbridge Business College, London. After leaving school, Joseph joined his father's earth moving and contracting business.
In 1964, his father met with a tragic life-ending accident, forcing him to take over the family earth-moving business, which he continues to run to this day. For the past 20 years, Joseph has been involved with United Nations WA, acting as President, Vice President, and presently the International Global Representative. This has taken Joseph to United Nations events in New York, London, and Geneva. In 2010, Joseph and his wife Carolyn attended the ANZAC Day service in Villers-Bretonneux, France, representing the United Nations. Joseph is a board member and an Australian patron of Miracles, a London-based charity, and he toured a rehabilitation hospital for landmine victims in Sarajevo and prosthetic limb manufacturing in Mostar. In his private and corporate capacity, Joseph has followed his family's ethos in charitable, philanthropic endeavours. In Bunbury, the Crusoe legacy is acknowledged with a street Crusoe. Joseph was foundation member of the building construction of the St John of God's Health Campus with funding donated from his company. The coronary care and the oncology suite is dedicated in his name of his parents. Joseph has a proud association and a long friendship with his hometown of Bunbury and throughout the southwest. Without further ado, I'd like you to welcome Mr. Joseph Crusoe.
Thank you, President Jeremy, for your introduction. I would like to acknowledge this ceremony is being held on the traditional lands of the Noongar people and pay my respect to the elders, both past, present and emerging. Good morning, RSL President, distinguished guests, Executive Committee members, servicemen and women, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. On behalf of the United Nations Association of Western Australia, it is an honour to present this ANZAC Day Reflective Solemn Address. Today we commemorate its 107th anniversary. ANZAC Day is one of Australia's most important national occasions. It marks the anniversary of the first major military action fought by Australian and New Zealand forces during the First World War. As you all know, ANZAC stands for Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, and the pride they took in that name endures to this day. It was a name given to those soldiers who formed part of the combined Allied mission that set out at dawn on the 25th day of April 1915 to capture the Gallipoli Peninsula in Turkey. The strategic mission was to clear the opening of the narrow straits of the Dardanelles, enabling Allied naval forces to enter and force an enemy surrender. It was only 9 months after the world break of World War I. On landing at Gallipoli, the contingent of brave young soldiers met with heavy resistance. They continued fighting under great duress for 8 months before withdrawing from conflict. Both sides suffered heavy casualties, with more than 8,000 Australian soldiers killed and many more wounded. These predominantly young, gallant Australian New Zealand men became known as the ANZACs. The pride they took in that name continues as we in Australia and New Zealand honour this anniversary day each year. The legend of ANZAC is more than just a tradition. It's part of all Australians. It's part of our history, our culture. It embodies the qualities we stand for and most value, including freedom, courage, determination, bravery, initiative, and mateship. The original ANZACs were not superhuman, they were just ordinary men who stood up to the cause and embraced those qualities. On ANZAC Day, we remember and commemorate the commitment, sacrifice of those who served the Commonwealth and our nation in times of war and conflict. And we remember not only those who faced battles on rocky coastal peninsulas, in jungles and deserts, and in the trenches, but also those who served upon and below the seas and within the skies. Whilst acknowledging the sacrifices of all these brave young men on the military frontline, We cannot forget all those teams of men and women who assisted in various support services. These included doctors, nurses, Royal Australian Navy and Air Force, field ambulance, military units, and of course the Red Cross. Galvanised with supreme courage, they cared for the wounded in dying in makeshift field hospital camps and on hospital ships. In addition, we must also acknowledge the voiceless, those animals who had little choice in assisting in the war zone. Here we are reminded of the legend of Simpson and his donkey, and Sandy, the only war horse to return from Gallipoli. As a token of respect on Anzac Day, alongside the traditional red poppy, many wear a sprig of rosemary, a herbal plant that was found growing wild on the battlefields of the Gallipoli Peninsula. Rosemary, like poppy, has therefore become widely acknowledged as a symbol of remembrance and traditionally honours the memory of fallen and departed comrades and commemorates the Anzac tradition. Conflicts today are sadly ever present in a world of change, geopolitical and global demographics. Past wars should really demonstrate an historical strong lesson of unwarranted sufferings, humanitarian displacement, and serve as a call to action for the advancement towards peace by our present world leaders, and of course supported by each and every one of us as ambassadors to peace. Here our thoughts are presently with those individuals and the country of Ukraine under siege, that we can't really understand the motivation of that conflict. Founded 77 years ago in 1945, the United Nations is an international organisation that works every day in sustainable life development goals around the world, including on front lines where necessary. It is enshrined in UN pillars embracing and preserving freedom, protecting human rights, promotion of international peace, delivering humanitarian aid and preventing suffering to both the developed world and the developing nations. The United Nations ethos is peace, dignity and equality on a healthy planet. I feel more than ever these UN values need to be acknowledged, undertaken seriously, to take precedence at this present time. All our global leaders need to make a concerted effort to advance peace in the name of humanity. Historically on this day we stand in solemn reflection of that fallen faithful dawn morning in a tribute to those whose names are inscribed on many war memorials found both distant and at home. We all somehow feel we are connected to each of these national heroes, be it through family, friends or learnings from our history at class. And so to each one, we owe a sincere and dignified promise that your Anzac spirit and sacrifice, the eternal flame, will continue to live on. It will never be forgotten from us, lest we forget.
Just like to thank Mr. Joseph Caruso for his speech and his wife Carolyn coming down from Perth today to be with us. It's very wonderful to have someone coming back to their hometown, which he spends quite a bit of time here, I think, at times. He's never lost his contact with his many friends that he has here in Bunbury, and Caroline also. I'd like to start off with thanking the Cenotaph Guards. 710, the Air Force cadets, were the first ones here after 515 finished this morning. I wish to thank them for their service on the Cenotaph. At the moment, we've got A Company, 11th 28th Battalion, Royal West Australian Regiment, on the Cenotaph. I thank them for their service today. They've turned out wonderfully. It's great to have the support we get from our service people. I'd like to thank our special guests for attending today. The local police, Bunbury Police, are here. Always a great support on our ANZAC days and throughout the year whenever we call upon them or need them. And I thank them very much for their attendance. The Bunbury City Band, what can I say? They've been supporting ANZAC Day here in Bunbury for many, many years, pre-war, long before First World War. There they were, the Bunbury City Band. And I thank them very much for their support to our commemoration today. Also, Brett Corkery, his 40th year. Brett, thank you very much. He's a bugler. Sharon Cousins, she's in charge of the RSL choir, and I thank Sharon for her efforts and work that she puts in to supply us with the singing voices that we hear here this morning. The two that did the Requiem, I would like to thank Elsa Woolley and Marika Morgan Harvey for the great job they did with the Requiem. This morning at dawn service we had Charlie Phillips, our piper, and Trevor Hoare, who was our rifleman. I'd like to thank Lottery West. Lottery West are behind us with this. We get a little bit of money from Lottery West, which helps for us to put on the day. Also AC West, CB Traffic Solutions, Amber Drostowski. Amber, if you can hear me, thank your crew very much for their support. Lloyd Herod, he's from Martin Capital Signs. He's the big signs you see, one down on the corner here. They supply those signs to us, the 3 in Bunbury here, or 2 here and 1 out at Eton, free of charge for us before ANZAC Day. Lomax Media, Sharon and Dean Lomax, thank you. Longsdale Party Hire, Total Sound, Jeff and his crew, thank you. On-site rental group, Bunbury City Events people from the Bunbury City Council, and Parks and Gardens, who maintain the garden behind you here and get it up nice for us for ANZAC Day. The Parade Marshals and the COVID Marshals. Andrew Shaw, the MC here today. Andrew, thank you very much. It's Andrew's first time as our MC. We sort of dropped on him at the last minute, and he's done a wonderful job. I'd like to thank him. The Southern Independent Southwest crew, they are a crew that helped us this morning with our dawn service, with crowd control and the barriers, so I thank them also. To our wonderful parade, what can I say? They're immaculately turned out. Trevor Kenny, Parade Commander. Trevor, thank you for leading the parade this morning. Wonderful, thank you. All the schools that are represented, I know there's a lot of schools that missed out because of the COVID restrictions. We've had to sort of cut back on a lot of the people attending in the parade. Let's hope next year things change and we can get back to a bit of normality with our services. The public, you're the people out there, in amongst you, I know there's veterans, the service people, all walks of life, kids, grown-up kids. Thank you very much for your attendance here today. It's wonderful to see. I'd just like to touch on something I touched on this morning. There's 2 flags flying here today for a very good reason. The flag over here, the blue and yellow, is the flag of Ukraine. The flag here is the Polish flag. The reason being they're flying is that, as you know, Ukraine is in a dire straits at the moment with a war with Russia, or Russia's having a war with Ukraine. The Polish people have always been very supportive of the Ukrainians, and the Polish people know what it's like to suffer, because they have over the years. When you look at our war memorial here, there's been suffering here too, for those that gave their lives and for the ones that were home that never ever saw their family or their kin again. It's a beautiful presentation with all the flowers, it looks lovely. But let's not forget the Ukrainian people at the moment are in a real bad way. The women, the children, the grandparents, the infirm, the old people, they're the ones that are suffering the most out of all this. Let's hope that reasoning will take over and suffering like this will stop. Joseph Crusoe here, as you heard, is with the international body of UN. He does a lot towards helping in this suffering. And I'm sure all of us here could certainly help to ease the suffering of the people in Ukraine. So I want to thank you all very much for your attendance here today. It's been wonderful. It's been a great commemoration. It's got a good turnout considering the COVID restrictions and ticketing. Let's just hope next year we can get back to a situation where it's open and people can just attend without worrying about the ticketing. So I thank you all very much once again. From my heart, I thank you. Cheers.
We now like to encourage you to sing Waltzing Matilda, and that'll be followed by the New Zealand National Anthem and the Australian National Anthem.
Thank you.
Parade commander, prepare for the march past.
It's a march past.
Oh, okay.
It's a march past. That'll be a while. I've got to go up the hill and back. Just be one of the smallest crowds we've had for a long time. We had a big crowd for dawn, just about 3,000. But
It's always been well supported, hasn't it? Down at
I
Bunbury?
think the ticketing's done a lot of this. A lot of people just, and the COVID thing and everything else on top of it. And we haven't had all the school kids. You know, we usually have all the kids marching, and that adds to the parents coming because the kids are marching, and it all adds up.
Catch you later then, Jason.
Yeah, we'll see you in the next couple of weeks or whatever it is.